Hey guys, so Lord here, back again with another review, and today we'll be taking a look at the Four Horsemen Studios Mythic Legions Illythia Wave, Lord Bardric, and Aphareus. Now before we get into it here, let's first take a look-see at both the front
and the back of the packaging. So without further ado, let's get into it. Now before we get into the meat and taters of this review, both Lord Bardric and our Centaur here come with quite a few accessories. I gotta be honest with you guys, I was pleasantly surprised by the amount of stuff we got in the box on top of, well, the amount of stuff we were already getting in the box, because just look at these two. That said, Lord Bardric comes with a pair of fist hands, and I don't know about you guys, but this is definitely a first for me, and as of right now, Lord Bardric is the only Mythic Legions figure I have that could throw down in a full-on fist fight, so that is pretty cool. That said, he also comes with a quiver of arrows, and much like I said in my Artemis and Alder review, this may have gotten mixed up with her, so this may be Artemis's, so please let me know if it is in the comments below. I can't remember who came with what. And there was also a loose arrow included, but much like Artemis again, I already put it in storage so I wouldn't lose it. But what would a quiver of arrows be without a bow to shoot them, which Bardric comes with as well, with real string, might I add. None of that fake crap we're used to seeing, right? It's always a plus. And if it breaks, there's a chance you could just untie it, or tie it, I mean. That said, he also comes with both a sword and an axe, because shooting people with arrows isn't enough. He could chop you to bits and slice and dice you to pieces as well. So that's cool. So much stuff. Seriously, talk about a plethora of accessories here. Moving on to Aphareus. I cannot remember his name. Please let me know if I'm talking out my rear end in the comments below. I think it's Aphareus or Aphareus. I want to lean more towards Aphareus because it's longer, and Mythic Legions likes long, complicated, stupid names. So, just saying. He comes with a quiver of arrows and a bow as well, which literally just looks like an elongated version of this, but it is not. It is actually completely different. Same with the quiver. I think the quiver's the same. There's Bardric's. I think the quivers are the same. Let me put that down there for a minute. No, yeah, I think it's the same. I think it's exactly the same. This being the Centaur's, this being Bardric's. Looks the same, but gets the job done. No loose arrow for him though, so I don't have to worry about losing that. That said, on top of also having, is this the right sword? Yes, it is. This really awesome looking sword, which is very similar to Bardric's. As far as being a little bit more ornate, it has the little thingy sticking off the side of the blade. It is quite different, but very similar if you're like me and scrounging to get this review done in a relatively low amount of time. He also comes with the trident as well, which is surprising because this is like a gladiator weapon. And I don't know about you guys, but this piece, the top piece, it's usually removable. It ain't moving. So I don't know if this is a solid piece or what, but let me know before I go run this under the hot water, try and pop it apart, because, well, I don't want to break it. I just want to know if that's a separate piece or not. That said, that is the spread. This clear rubber band that I used to hold Bardric on for the URL is not included, but gets the job done. But taking a closer look at Bardric and moving our Centaur out the way here. He is a brother. Not a lot of black characters in this line, I'm not going to lie. The first two that come to mind are Clavius and Otho, who I know all of you want really bad, but I could give a crap. I want Clavy in. the red skeleton. So unless one of y'all is willing to donate it to the channel, which I would very much appreciate that. All-Star 6 plus, minus, whatever you want to call it. Can we please get Clavian? That would be awesome. I'm hoping with the Furious 4 2-packs at Legion's Con, that'll maybe spark some interest in that character. But Lord Bardric has something new going on. So if I pop his head off here and remove his torso, spread his arms out, and attempt to pull this off, he actually has a removable chest piece. Now, you'll have to bear with me because I haven't tried this a whole lot, and it's a pretty snug fit, but he does have a removable chest piece. It's just getting my claws in there to grab it. So this is interesting, because does this mean we're going to switch to a new torso format so the Horsemen can save a little bit of money and have a unique or a non-unique torso for everybody and just swap the chest plates out? Because I'm being honest here, I think that's a step in the right direction. Not to mention it adds a little bit more customizability and gives a potential for a ribcage torso. Which, if you guys know what's going to be at Legion's Con, you know darn well that that's something to start talking about. Because, well, we need some more unique skeleton parts. Not a lot of those right now. That said, popping his head back on. He does have new shoulder pads. He is on the new, kind of less armored, but still jacked, kind of scout ranger buck. So he's got more leather and fabric in his armor as opposed to straight up metal armor plates. He does have the shoulder pads, which I do believe are new. He's got this belt piece which has storage for weapons on the side here. You could put a sword and his quiver there. That said, I usually just have him holding the sword. He does have a new crotch piece here, this little loin piece, which is short enough to allow him to sit, which I do like. You don't have to pop this out to get him to sit. He can sit just fine with that hanging out there. That's what she said. As you can see, he can sit down just fine. This will warp out of the way. That's awesome. I like the soft goods, but I like plastic as well. I think plastic you can do a little bit more with, especially when you add some paint. Just looks a little better and blends in better with the rest of the figure. That said, when it comes to capes, fabric, 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 I hate plastic capes. So with that being said, looking at this head sculpt, he is very determined to kick my butt, so let's make this quick. Articulation on this guy, it's your standard 1.0 buck, so his head is on a ball joint, his neck is also on a ball joint. He has this almost Magneto-esque collar piece going on, so that's cool. His shoulders can go up, but they're very stiff. Yeah, on both sides. Holy cow. They move forward and back. He's got a single hinge at the elbow with rotation, swivel at the gauntlet, swivel at the wrist with a hinge. And if you're curious how hard it is to pop these out, not very. They are tight. They're not loose like some of the earliest Legions figures, which I did review way back last year. And these don't really have a snap when you put them back in. It's more of an out than an in snap. That said, he does have the wrist rotation, and you can pop the wrist out if you so choose. Oh, there we go. Wasn't in there all the way. That said, he does have a diaphragm joint, which is a little on the loose side for me. Just something I just noticed with this buck. These new torsos with the armor plates, the ball socket's a little bit looser than normal, but nothing a little bit of heat can't fix, I don't think. That said, you can also shift the belt up and it kind of stiffens things up. That said, his hips can kick out, back down, forward and back. He's got a thigh cut. Knees are a little weak on these legs. I would like some tighter knees. They're tight when they're bent, but when they're in neutral, they're kind of floppy. Not a ton, but enough to where he's going to be a pain in the nougats to stand. See, he's just wanting to kind of lean back there. So I don't want the knees buckling on my legions, dude. That's the one thing they had down pat, and for whatever reason, in neutral on both sides, at least on my Bardric here, these are a little loose. So tighten them joints up, guys. That said, he does have a thigh cut there, as well as a hinge in the foot with a swivel and a rocker and peg holes at the bottom of the feet for the McFarlane toy stands, which work best with these guys. Though I do think 4 Horsemen have their own stands, right? I think they do. I think they put them out during the Legion Builder in stock extravaganza we had earlier this year. That said, you guys want to see this. No saddle, first and foremost, so it's going to be a rough ride for Bardric, at least for right now. I'm probably not going to display him on here, but for review's sake, I decided to group the two together. That said, I apologize for the camera being so darn high, or low. But if I bring him in a little closer here, I'll just do this, because this is not the tightest fit. And we'll just look at this upper body right quick, because this is what we need to talk about. The rest of this we've seen, like taking this off, and with the exception of this piece here, it's a horse figure. It's nothing that new. That said, I'm surprised this is not a double ball peg right here. I think honestly it should be. It'd be a little bit more solid because it'd be made out of ABS and not PVC. That said, I don't really need the extra articulation, but the overall construction would be a little bit better in my opinion. Said putting the belt on. Here is our centaur, whose name I think is Aphareus. Don't quote me on that. Now, a little issue I had with mine, this gauntlet was pretty sticky out the package, but I put some soap in there, heated it up, put it back together. It works fine right now, but it's also kind of cool in my room where I do reviews. So it's probably solidified that peg, but it was very gummy out the box and has a tendency to stick, so probably going to get a new upper arm for this guy, or arm in general, lower arm, I don't know, probably the whole arm, because I don't really know where the problem lied. That said, there's also an issue I have with the horse body, but we'll talk about that in a minute. It's not as bad. But just look at the sculpt on this chiseled mofo. Holy cow. You could kick my butt too. Every figure I've been reviewing lately, that's Storm Shadow from G.I. Joe, Artemis and the Moose, Lord Bardric, even the pumpkin dude from Power Rangers, it could all kick my butt. Let's be real here. I'm not a fighter. I could throw down, I guess, if I needed to. If worse comes to worse, I get that adrenaline rush and start throwing down in the pit or whatever. But as far as these guys are concerned, they got me beat by a mile. I mean, this dude is jacked. Here we go. I'm going to pop the head off here so we can look at this amazing body sculpt. Look at that. Holy crap. Now, we can pop the shoulder pads off. Give you an even closer look at that. Why the heck isn't this a build for Venom or Sabretooth in Marvel? Seriously? Just, you know, 4 Horsemen, can you do us all a favor and sculpt all the generic bodies for the Marvel Legends brand over at Hasbro? Because y'all make them look like dumpster fire. And these are not meant to be like superheroes. They're meant to be more, you know, fantasy-esque, somewhat realistic characters, but they just look like they could win in a fight easily, you know. That said, the shoulders on this body can go out that far. They can go back down. They can rotate around. I will say the torso feels a little bit smoother than the arms, which is a little odd, but nothing too crazy. He does have a single elbow with rotation there. Gauntlet swivel at the wrist with a hinge. Overall, pretty solid articulation. You know, it's your standard Legion's fare. And of course, there is the ball joint in the head, which if we pop the head back on, That's what he looks like without shoulder pads. You can get a little bit more side to side out of that. And the one thing I will say that I do appreciate is that they do have the shoulder pads attached in the package. Now you're probably wondering what's such a big deal about that. Well, first and foremost, they're a lot easier to get in. They don't get stuck when you try to rotate them. And overall, it's just less work for me. Because they're already attached, I don't got to worry about getting them on. Just taking them off, and taking them off is a little easier than putting them on. Let's be real here. That said, putting the upper body back on this could be easier said than done, if I'm being quite honest. There. Again, be careful with that peg. It's a little bit gummy. It's made out of PVC. I guess not gummy, but it's softer than your typical. It's more like the ball peg on the head, as opposed to one in the torso would normally be. So, popping his head back on here. Very, very awesome figure. If it wasn't for the fact that this was a good guy, he'd probably be my favorite in a wave. Yes, I know I like all the bad guys, sue me, but it is what it is, man. That said, his torso gets pretty good range up here. Get some tilt, get some side to side. When it wants to move, okay, there we go. There is a double ball joint in here, but I'm not going to move that because it's nice and sturdy right now and I don't want to loosen it up. But you do get quite a bit of crunch out of this torso joint. That said, his tail, of course, is on the disc hinge, so it can lift and rotate and whatnot. His legs can kick forward, back. He's got the cut there, single knee there, swivel here. Almost all the lower legs on mine are kind of loose, but there's one that's a lot looser, and we'll get to that. His hooves are, of course, articulated with the hinge swivel. And which one of these was loose? It was one of the back ones. Either way, fairly loose legs on this guy, which is unfortunate. He can kick out, he can kick down, he can kick back and forth. Same with this knee here. And this joint can hinge as long as it's willing to do so. Yeah, this is these lower legs are quite loose on all four legs, so I don't know if that's just mine or if they're all like that, but they're all pretty loose. The front ones I could probably tolerate. Those are good enough. But the back ones on mine, both of them are pretty loose. This one in particular. And then he also has the hinge in the foot, or the hoof, with rotation as well. So, aside from the hind legs being kind of loose back here, this is a solid figure. That said, he is going to be standing on all fours, so does that really matter? That's up to you. Me personally, I might try and get some better hind legs. Just the lower leg, the upper leg's fine. On all four legs, for that matter, but principle of the matter is he's got some looseness, and I would like him to be nice and tight, especially after a 2-year wait. You know, 2-year wait. Bleh. I would like some nice tight joints on my figures, please and thank you. But with that being said, that is Lord Bardric and Aphareus, our centaur buddy. In a nutshell, really awesome figures. Of course, if you're collecting this line, you probably already picked them up, but I figured I'd double them up in a review just to save on time, but this review's probably dragged out long enough. So with that being said, let's now move on and take a look at some size comparisons. First up, here is Lord Bardric, next to the only other elf character I have in my Mythic Legions collection, at least that I know of anyways, Artemis Silver Card 2.0, I did take a look at, along with Alder the other day, so please check that out if you haven't already. I'd really appreciate it. Then we also have another 1.0 style character from the Mythic Legions Illythia wave, who I have not looked at yet, but will soon, Valak, the Vampire Ranger, who is a contender for my favorite figure from this wave. But stay tuned for the review to learn more about that. That said, as I said before in the Artemis review, considering the fact that the Mythic Legions line pretty much has a stock size, Lord Bardric is of course going to share the same height with not only Valak but most 1.0 figures. The only thing he's got going for him that's a little bit outside the norm is the antler crown thing he's got going on, so he does get a little bit of height because of that, but for the most part, all of the 1.0 figures share the same height, all of the 2.0 figures share the same height, but I would like to see some other body types. Again, like I said before in the Artemis video, I would like to see some younger bucks, some teen male and female bucks. I think that would be something interesting to see in this line, and I'm hoping that the Four Horsemen think of something to do like that at some point in the near to distant future. Next up here is our Centaur alongside a couple other steeds from the Mythic Legions line, Phobos and Aphareus, and as you can see, yeah, he's definitely got some height on him compared to these two. Not gonna lie, but I will say, after seeing him next to Phobos there, I would love to see a Vampire Centaur at some point. That would be really frickin' cool. And last, but certainly not least, we have our two regulars, the Mythic Legions, Brother Mandibulus, Lemon Spawn, who's not towering over everyone today because while he may edge out Lord Bardric just a little bit, he sure as heck ain't no Centaur. So with that being said, time to wrap things up with some final thoughts. Overall, and if I'm allowed to be 100% honest with you guys, since this is my video after all, I'm going to be straight up in saying that I was looking forward to our Centaur here a little bit more than the infamous Moose. Not going to lie, as much as I was excited to finally get a Moose in 1/12 scale, for better or for worse, I was more excited to get a Centaur because while the Moose is awesome, it's pretty much a horse with Moose parts tacked onto it. This is a little something different. And something different, something new, to me, is usually always a little bit more exciting than something a little borrowed and a little reused. That said, I think the Centaur has officially met my expectations, maybe not exceeded, because again, there is a little bit of reuse here with the horse half of this figure, but considering we now know what to expect from our Brute scale figures, which should be coming out, I think, next year in the Poxus Wave and Cosmic Legions Wave 2, I think we have a lot to work with here. There's a lot of potential for the Brute scale, and I am all here for it. Can we get some Minotaurs on that body? I think that would be a little bit better than just sticking the bull head and neck piece on a 1.0 Legion's sized body. I think this Brute scale lends itself to a Minotaur. I think Minotaurs are meant to be a little bit more jacked, a little bit buffer, a little bulkier. Thus, the Brute scale is the perfect body for those types of characters. I'd also like to see more orcs using this body, some demon characters as well, maybe some dragon men, some dragonborn characters, and of course, skeletons. I mean, we don't even have a skeleton ogre scale figure yet, so fingers crossed for more variety amongst our congregation of Necronominous crowd. That said, not to sell Lord Bardric short, but much like Artemis 2, he was kind of a tack on to this review, just to get it out there, but needless to say, the Horsemen knocked him out of the park as well. He's a super fun figure. A black character, which not a lot of those in the Legion's line. The other ones that come to mind are Otho and, is it Clavius? Not Clavian, that's the red skeleton. Unless you want to count Ilgar, of course, but I can only assume that he wasn't born that way, right? Let's be honest with ourselves. But Lord Adon was a pleasant surprise to me. I mostly got him because I wanted another elf character. Don't have a lot of those. Artemis and him are my first two elves. If anything, I would like Lord Adon another chance at him, or, you know, some of the army builders. I did buy the, I believe it's an elf character with a falcon from All Stars 5 Plus. In fact, that was the only character I bought from the plus half of that wave, because nothing else really interests me that much other than maybe the goblin, but I'll try and pick him up during an in-stock if I'm being perfectly honest with you. But yeah, Lord Bardric, if you want to add a little bit of diversity to your elf crowd, I know there was also that black elf head that was included with the elf legion builder, so I guess you could throw him in with a couple of those guys. I'm all here for it. He's a cool figure, but let's be honest, you clicked on this review to see good old Aphareus. Again, I will have the name right in the title. I'm a schmuck for not remembering what it is, but I think all you came for the Centaur. Let's be real here. So, with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you are so inclined, please don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you know whenever I upload more reviews like this one. And if you haven't already, please hit me up on Instagram at Overlord Productions, as well as the Mythic Legions Cabal over on Facebook. Be a part of the Mythic Legions community, but as always, keep the comments civil, because the world sucks enough as it is, especially when you forget the name of something you're reviewing. I mean, is it Aphareus? Aphareus? Something like that. Can we all just agree that Mythic Legion's names suck to A, pronounce, B, remember, and C, spell? I mean, god dang it, man. And until next time, I'll catch you guys later.